Hi League of Lit fam, welcome back to another episode of the Jules and Monty 10-year re-review. Second to last, we're almost there.
Welcome to League of Lit, where we discuss books, adaptations, and anything else we wish to talk about and tie it back to lit because we can.
It is also a truth universally acknowledged that we are not a spoiler-free podcast. We're also not a spoiler-free YouTube place. So watch at your own peril because we are absolutely going to spoil the heck out of this show.
Let's dive in to episode 17.
I'm not ready for it to end. It's so close, but I'm not ready.
Because I think we're going to find out about that little video call that Nancy was getting at the end of episode 16.
One thing I really love about Nancy's character is how many pieces she plays in this puzzle. She's obviously the nurse, she's been the prince, she is now the messenger / the friar. So it's so interesting how very important she is to the story and how many characters they manage to fit inside Evie's part.
So Monty and Nancy are having a video chat, and this is where we get the full confession from Nancy as to what she did. This is the dagger on full display. It's a little more intricate than just, oh, happy dagger, but it is that happy dagger moment.
It's sad to watch because Monty clearly wants to talk to Jules, wants to see her, wants to hash this out, and Nancy is trying her hardest to be a good friend and to make choices that Juliet may not be happy about right now, but in the end might benefit her because it might be better if she leaves. And who knows what could happen after all of this. There is nothing further beyond Jules and Monty. So we don't have any idea what happened to them in their life. Did they go off and live their lives and never see each other again? Did they find each other years later and end up back in love? Did they find each other years later and reminisce on an interesting time in college? There's no answer to these questions. So Nancy is doing her best with a situation that she just doesn't know how it's going to end. But she has to take care of her friend, no matter how much it hurts everybody involved.
I will say is so the way that this is shot, it creating a video conversation is it's not necessarily easy because, lighting can be funky and whatnot, and there's so many different ways that it could look. So it's they could have, recorded a video chat, but instead it's, be like having it's like if Sierra was right here, and then, switching it out, periodically. Um, so the editing is amazing in this, with all of that, and you can see is with the way that Nancy is acting, she's trying to make sure it's oh, is Juliet coming back? She cannot know, because this could undo everything that I've done, because Nancy is adamant that Monty is the only reason why Jules has not left UV, which makes sense but doesn't at the same time, because I mean, Monty's not there anymore, so why wouldn't she also try to go? I mean, there's nothing that says that she can go to the University of Mantua with Monty. She's not, because Nancy said in 16 that she's going to UC something, but at the same time, I don't think Jules strikes me as the kind that would follow a boy anywhere he went. But they could have gone that way, but they didn't, because, source material is that Romeo and Juliet do not end up together, except, they kind of do in death, but,
I love a little tiny rose mention from the beginning of the series. The rose thing doesn't make me look good, is what Monty says. It doesn't. He's right. It didn't make Romeo look good in the source material either, the whole Rosalind thing. He seemed very fickle. So I understand why he would bring that up. It's just funny, just to have her mentioned for a second. Miss her. Bring her back.
So I think it's interesting that Monty is very visibly and audibly frustrated by the fact that Jules is transferring. Now, sure, the news could be a shock, but especially after you just learned that, your girlfriend, or who you believe is still your girlfriend, even though she believes that y'all are done, um, that somebody that you genuinely care about is, not like they're transferring, they're doing something that they need to do because they need to move on with their life. To be this visibly and audibly frustrated, it's interesting, and I think again this goes back to the level of maturity that can sometimes exist, because I think it doesn't reflect well on Monty that he is so frustrated and mad that this is the choice that Jules is making, even though it is 100% the best choice for her, is to get away from Cliff and to move on with her life somewhere else away from him. It could literally be anywhere, but he's still so visibly upset about it.
Monty's reaction to Cliff hitting Jules, to Jules transferring, it's very much expected from Monty. It also, at this point, you're just kind of like, what is there to do? Everything, the dominoes have fallen. We cannot change what's happening. All we can do now is move forward. And Nancy believes it's in Jules' best interest not to move forward with Monty. And I think that it's hard to think about, because young love, it's so beautiful. It's, it's supposed to be miraculous, this wonderful thing. And yet, Romeo and Juliet, it's a tragedy. There's a lot of really, honestly, very tragic young love stories, because in the end, you're young. There's so much more growing to do. And sometimes you have to grow apart and hope that maybe you'll grow together eventually. I'm feeling very poetic, apparently, today. A little too much Shakespeare going on.
The mentioning of Ty, because obviously the last time uh, it was just Nancy and Monty, she punched him for the sake of Ty. But, and it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility that Ty could be part of the motivation that Nancy has, but I do believe, because of the way that the friendship was built and what we have seen on display throughout the entire series, Nancy genuinely believes that she's doing this for Jules. And I think we as an audience can also believe that she is genuinely doing this for Jules. She wants to help her. She wants her to move forward with her life, and this is the best way to do that. Um, but Monty's not helping. He is kind of being a slightly whiny baby about it, and on par with Romeo.
Jules coming into the shot at the end after Nancy's hung up the call really just, I think it shows how well she's doing despite all of the bad things that have happened. She's able to joke with Nancy, and they're going to celebrate that she's leaving despite how sad it is, I'm sure, for both of them. I think it actually gives us proof that Nancy, while what she's doing may seem really mean and awful, she's doing it for her friend, and her friend is clearly being and learning to be better for it. So sad though.
This is it before we really get to the end of Jules transferring, and no more Jules. We already have no more Monty, so what more is there for Jules and Monty if you don't have Jules and you don't have Monty? But that's it for this episode. We will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to this very special edition of League of Lit.
Make sure that you follow us at League of Lit Podcast on Instagram and League of Lit Pod on TikTok.
If you have any suggestions for an episode, feel free to leave a comment at leagueoflit.tumblr.com.